What's going on, you guys? You're tuned into the Cutting Room Knife Review. I'm your host, Garrett, and today we have the Bali-Lock-inspired Kansept Hazard. And the deployment of this blade is very unique, you guys, and well, there's a bit of a learning curve.
What's up, guys? I'm Garrett. You're tuned into the Cutting Room Knife Review, where I review knives, blades, and all things sharp. Please like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you more killer knife content.
So, all jokes aside, you guys, the Kansept Hazard is a fairly large folder, and it's very unique. It has this Bali-Lock or Bali-Lock that is, I don't know how practical it is, but it's definitely unique. And it's a risk that the creator, Steve Dunnock, decided to take with this knife. And I think it's kind of cool they went along with it. Now, that's how the knife deploys. And I kind of like it. It's been fun to play around with it. See, my friend Anthony is a Bali-Song master. He is the Bali-Song knife guy out of our friend group. And he decided that he wanted to check out this knife because, of course, it has a Bali-Lock on it, and it's inspired by Bali-Song knife, so he would want to check out the knife. And so he wanted me to do a review of this knife. He was very gracious to let me check out the knife before he ever even got a hold of it. So it is a cool knife. I've enjoyed checking this knife out. I think it's actually a pretty practical knife in use once you do end up using it. Once it's locked in position. I think that there are some definite hazards to this knife, and it warrants its name. I think it's fairly impractical as an everyday folder, but it's definitely a unique, fun, like fidget toy if you wanted to learn how to do tricks with it. It's a unique concept, and I like that people are thinking outside of the box with knife design and lock design, and just doing something different than the standard, drop point with a liner lock. So let's check out the Hazard's materials and dimensions that make up this knife for what it is. So the Kansept Hazard is 7.92 inches overall. It has a 3.63 inch blade length, which leaves it at 4.29 inches for the handle length. Now, the blade thickness is 0.118 inches. It's actually a fairly thin blade thickness for this large of a blade. And we have just under half an inch as far as the handle thickness goes. Overall, this is a pretty comfortably sized knife. In my opinion, it feels and looks bigger than it is. It's right just inside what I consider appropriate for an everyday carry. And of course, we all know that I like between 7 and 8 inches overall in knife length. And then I like between 3 and 3.5 inches of blade length on my everyday carry knives. And this knife is a little bit longer of a blade, and it's just under the overall length. To me, this knife feels fairly large as far as an everyday carry knife goes, but it's not overwhelming. What this knife is a little bit heavy. Now, it's 5.07 ounces. And it typically a knife this big these days is a little bit lighter than that. I do have heavier knives than this, but this knife tends to feel heavy. Now, I think the reason that it feels heavy is it kind of has to basically be solid for this Bali-Lock. And I'm going to be flipping this knife in and out with this Bali-Lock. And understand, guys, I don't have a ton of space between my camera and my desk where I'm doing this. So to be able to flip this back and forth is actually harder than it looks with the limited space I have to keep this knife in the shot. But basically what this knife is a folder that's running very loose on these bearings, and it has this Bali-Lock right here. And this opens, and when it closes, it snaps shut. There's like a little click. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear it. But when it opens, you get to about here, and the blade just swings freely. Kind of like a Bali-Song's arms do, or a Bali-Song blade does. I'm not a Bali-Song guy, so if I mess up anything with my references to Bali-Songs, you guys correct me in the comments. I have no ego in this as far as Bali-Songs go. I ask my buddy Anthony all my questions about Bali-Songs when I have them. But this flips out, and once we get to about here, it's locked in. And so basically, we have this tab behind the knife, the way this blade is, and there's a tab on the end of this, basically a bar. And when this is up, the bar sits under it, and it locks under this bar and under the blade tang. When I open it up enough, it's able to flip closed, and then I close it again, and it shuts and locks in the blade, so the blade cannot open while the bar is shut. So you're going to see guys doing all kinds of stuff where they spin this around and they flip it over, they open it and close it, and that's cool. I played with it for a little bit, and I realized I was playing with my buddy's knife, and I was probably going to wind up dropping it, either dropping a knife straight through my foot or slicing my hands like I joked about in the intro of this video. But I think that with some practice, this could be a fun knife that you could do some neat tricks with if that's kind of what you're into. Basically, most of the tricks are going to involve this being out like this and spinning the knife around it and then allowing the blade to fly open and closed while we're spinning this. Right? So I'm not that great with it. So what we have here is a titanium handle, and it's anodized bronze, and we have an S35 VN drop point blade, or spear point blade, one or the other, whatever you want to call this. It has a nice grind on it. It's a flat grind, has a swedge at the top. It has a really good, generous finger choil on it, so we can choke up on the knife and really get a good grip on it. The one thing that this knife is kind of missing is jimping. And there's kind of this jimping along the edges of the spine on the handle, but there's none on the blade. And I would like there to be jimping right here. I just prefer it. Some knives don't have it. Is it a deal breaker for me? No, but it feels strange without it. It really does feel strange not to have any grip up here on the knife. Is the rest of the knife grippy? I think the ergonomics on it are good. I don't think it's going anywhere in my hands. I definitely prefer it choked up. It's a big enough blade that I prefer to hold it like this. There's lots of handle for my hand, whether I'm choked back on it or choked up on it. All in all, pretty decent knife. Would I carry it? No, I don't think I would. Am I glad that I got an opportunity to handle it and check it out? Yeah, I think it's cool. I'm glad that I got a chance to just, fool around with it. It has a really kind of funny pocket clip. This pocket clip looks strange. It kind of goes with the aesthetics of the knife, but it actually, for it being so small, it works really good. Like, it clips into my pocket well, and like, it doesn't need a whole bunch of pocket clip to do its job. And like, I thought I was going to hate this thing, and I really don't. It's not that bad of a clip. It's interesting. So that's the Kansept Hazard. Let's take a look at this knife next to some other knives just to compare its size and the range that it falls into. So, as always, we're going to compare this knife to the Spyderco Para 3. And what we have is a much larger knife than the Para 3. Much heavier knife, much bigger knife. It's much closer to the size of the Paramilitary 2, and it's actually just a little bit bigger than the Paramilitary 2. So it's a pretty big knife. Now, the blade itself gives me more vibes of like a knife like the Shaman, or a knife like the Bodacious. Now, in reality, it's very much like the Shaman. It has the choil on it. It drops down very much like the Shaman. Has a bit more of a belly towards the point of the knife. This is much more of just a straight, almost spear, almost just a leaf shape. And Spyderco just tends to have more of a leaf shape, not as much of a belly after the flat of their knife. But if you are comfortable holding a Shaman, I think that the size of this knife and just the aesthetics, the ergonomics of this knife are very similar. They're very, very similar to the Shaman. Is it completely the same? No, but it in the hand, the knife feels about the same size. It feels like the same usability as the Shaman. Being that it's S35VN, it's going to be a very durable knife, steel. It's going to be tough. It's going to actually be fairly easy to sharpen. It's a good super steel. It's going to be corrosion resistant. It's a good choice. It's inexpensive. This knife only comes in at about $150. And for $150, like this is a cool little toy. And I think it's a novelty worth checking out at that price. And it's going to be functionally good enough that you could actually take this knife out and really put it to some use. It comes very sharp from the factory. S35VN is a good blade steel. It's a thin, nice and thin stock on this knife. It's got a very nice and thin blade edge. It has really nice grinds on it. This knife in particular is a satin finish. It comes in some different finishes from Kansept. Kansept does a really good job of making these, like basically these higher end knives. This is the Kansept Tarkin. And they make these, kind of plain Jane titanium knives with, this is 20 CV blade steel. This is S35VN. And they're not expensive, but they have great action on them. And they have titanium and high-end blade steels, pretty good designs, good ergonomics, and they don't disappoint, especially for the price. And I don't think you'll be disappointed with this knife for the price. Now, you're going to have to want to be playing with the knife, I think. I think that this is definitely I think it's a novelty. I don't think anybody's going to be taking this thing out and really every day carrying it to the job site and taking it really seriously that, this is the knife, that's my hard use knife. And, I'm going to carry this over all other knives. Maybe you will. Maybe this thing's just what you needed and it's a kind of fun that you like. And this is what you want to do for deployment. I don't get as much of a kick out of doing this for deployment as, say, I do being able to flip a knife and like having it be drop shut. Like this, Hyphen XL has amazing action, right? And the only reason I'm showing this Hyphen XL is just for the action, the fact that it has a great snap out, a really good drop shut. That's what I enjoy as far as opening and closing a knife. It's what I enjoy if I'm going to sit and fidget with a knife. This doesn't give me like the kind of fidgety like kick. It doesn't subside the autism for me, as well as, a knife that has really good action that I can flick and then drop shut. But maybe it's for you because it's built well. It's actually pretty comfortable in the hand. It's got a really good blade geometry. I think it's going to be a very usable knife. And once it's locked in, it feels like it's locked in. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. I really pushed hard on this knife and the lock doesn't break. As long as you've got this thing clipped in, I've never had it come unclipped on me. I put it in my pocket for a while. It never once came unclipped. It does take a bit of force to release this. And even if it does release, it can't open up like all the way. Like as this closes, the blade closes with it. So this has to fully open for the blade to fully open. It has to go to about here for the knife to swing freely. And once I get it past here, I actually am closing the knife by closing this bar down. So it's not like it just pops to here and all of a sudden the knife can swing open. It has the bar helps close the knife blade. So it has a very, I wouldn't say it's the strongest click, but it's noticeable and it's pronounced. And it hasn't once lost its like tightness to the bar and the lock to where I was like, oh man, after I break this knife in, it's going to become a dangerous like liability. I don't think it is. I think it's built well, and it's built in a way that I've been playing with this enough that I don't think that this lock is going to fail on people. Now, hopefully I don't have to eat my words in the future on that one. And so please use the Kansept Hazard at your own risk. I probably should put something like that. Future me, put a warning at the beginning of this video. Use the Kansept Hazard at your own risk. This is definitely something that you could wind up hurting yourself with. And I'm really surprised because I am prone to cutting myself with knives when I play with them a little too much. I'm really surprised that I haven't cut myself with this knife. So if you do wind up with a Kansept Hazard, be careful, be responsible, take it slow. If you're trying to learn tricks, maybe put a piece of tape over the edge of the knife blade. You could always tape a piece of like lambskin or sheepskin or just even tape. You could use a piece of microfiber cloth and just tape it over the blade. And that would be enough that you might save yourself from slicing your hand up or dropping it on your foot. I was really worried about dropping this knife. It's 5 ounces and it's substantial to where when you're swinging it around by this little thing, I do feel like it could wind up falling out of your hands. Like I'm not above thinking that by flinging it all around, that I might not hold on to it tight enough. I don't know. Never happened to me. I'm not saying it can't happen. Be careful. I hope it doesn't happen to you. So with that being said, I think it's a cool knife. I think it's a novelty, but it's definitely a cool knife. At the price point, you really can't go wrong with it. It's actually a really good deal for a titanium handled S35VN blade at this size. And with these ergonomics and blade geometry, like the price is right. It just doesn't really give you any option other than the Bali-Lock. You can't like, part of me wishes that you could like disable this and just keep it locked in and then have a thumb stud or a spidey hole or some kind of flipper tab. And you could use this knife with this locked and lock and unlock the option of using the Bali-Lock. And just they're like, okay, I'm not going to play with the Bali-Lock today. I'm going to lock the Bali-Lock in place. Like have a bar that slides up into this somehow. And then another something somehow that the blade can disengage and you can use some kind of manual opening and closing of the blade. That's probably way too much engineering and it would probably make the knife cost a whole lot more. So I think I just talked myself out of that. But I kind of get over just the Bali-Lock. Like it's just not for me. And it's not something that I want to mess with all day long. But it's definitely a cool toy to play with. And if you're into Bali songs and this is for you, I think this would be a cool and strong enough knife to use all day. I definitely don't see anything wrong with the blade or the handle as to why you couldn't use this as a hard use everyday carry knife. You just have to be willing to use the Bali-Lock to open and close it. So with that being said, this is the Kansept Hazard, the Bali song inspired new knife from Kansept with the brand new Bali-Lock. Very cool. I think it's kind of a gimmick, but you know what? I think it's a cool gimmick. And I'm glad that I got to check it out. So thank you, Anthony, for letting me check out your knife. I'll be sending it back to you very soon. I hope you guys have enjoyed checking out the Kansept Hazard. I'm Garrett from the Cutting Room Knife Review. Till next time, you guys, stay sharp.